A global pandemic. Due to growing fear and panic induced by news media, our host, Taylor Campbell, has been placed in unnecessary quarantine. Now, he attempts to fill the empty time with intellectual pursuits.
Get to cover!
Ugh. I am so bored. Social distancing is literally the worst. It gets so boring. And there's just like nothing to do. But when there's nothing to do, that means you just gotta find a time sink. Something to do to put your time into, and will use up a lot of time without you quite noticing what's happening. And you won't find an easier or more convenient time sink than Star Wars. I've been thinking about Star Wars a lot over the past week, and it's fascinating because Star Wars is one of those things that is polarizing, but for different reasons for different people. So everyone looks at Star Wars differently, but typically seems to like Star Wars, regardless. So today I thought, I'm not doing anything. Why don't we go ahead and rank Star Wars movies in order of my favorites and least favorites and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started. In last place we have episode Dumpster Fire, The Last Jedi. Golly, I hate this movie. You know, back in elementary school, I remember there was this one kid, and he was kind of a jerk. And so, one thing that he absolutely liked doing a lot was he would pretend to like the thing that I liked. He would pretend to be into comic books or that kind of thing, and constantly just made fun of it, while I naively thought that he actually was interested and that this was something we could bond over. Of course, that wasn't the case, and that's what The Last Jedi felt like to me. It felt like they were pretending to like Star Wars, and while they were pretending to like Star Wars, they were just mocking it the whole time. It's exhausting how much it teases different ideas about Star Wars, how it makes fun of lightsabers, how it makes fun of the Force, and the ending is super unsatisfying. It just kind of happens, and then it completely butchers Luke Skywalker's character. I've met some people who love this movie, and I'm glad that you do, but I just can't bring myself to it. It feels like it's reaching into the chest of the Star Wars fan, repping out as hard and then lighting it on fire. It's just not... It kind of hurts to watch a little bit. Next isn't much better. It's Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I just remember I got so excited to see this movie. The trailer was awesome, and I somehow ended up with like opening night tickets, and I got all dressed up in Han Solo costumes, and I went to see the movie, and then I saw it, and I was very, very disappointed. It wasn't special. It didn't add anything to Star Wars, and it didn't really take anything away either. It just was more, and it wasn't very satisfying. And so it is my second least favorite Star Wars. Next is the Clone Wars movie. The Clone Wars movie isn't bad, and like it's well acted and it's well put together. It's just that it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like 3 episodes of Clone Wars mushed together, and not even the 3 best episodes, just like 3 episodes. Next is The Rise of Skywalker, and it's alright. It's fun enough. It's fast paced. Keeps things moving. But the problem is that I regularly hear about what was supposed to be in this movie and what it could have been instead, and every time I do, I just feel sad that that's not what we got instead. Yeah, so as I'm editing this, I realized I forgot episode 2, like, entirely. Attack of the Clones, so put it right here in the ranking. The Phantom Menace is the beginning. It's the new, like, introduction to the universe, and it introduced new planets, it introduced new concepts, and the planets we've even visited before, like Tatooine, it showed a completely different side of it. It expanded the culture of Star Wars, and it showed, like, what things looked like before the Empire, and it gave you a good idea. And it's like, you watch episode 1 and you think, how did we get from this to how the galaxy looked in the prequels? And you get to watch that happen. It's a fascinating introduction. Next, after that in my ranking, is The Empire Strikes Back. It's not a bad movie. It's really well written. It's really well acted. It's well directed. It's very, very good. The only problem I have with it is that it is a perfect middle to a story. The subject of episode 5 is completely dependent on setup from episode 4 and resolution from episode 6. Like, if I want to sit down and watch Star Wars episode 5, I have to watch 3 movies in order to feel like I've got a satisfying story, satisfying ending to the story. You know what? You get what I'm saying? So, it's good, but it's a middle. It's a great middle, but it is a middle nonetheless. Next is Rogue One. I really was impressed with this movie. I didn't think I would be, but then I saw it and I'm like, wow, this actually is really cool. It did everything I was hoping episode 7 would have done. You know, it expanded the universe. It showed how the Empire actually was super oppressive even before they started blowing up planets. It showed how the rebellion had to take whoever they could, and sometimes that meant they had to take really seedy kind of characters. And if none of that does it for you, that whole ending scene with Darth Vader stomping down the hallway and just slicing up rebels as he goes, that is cool. That is awesome. It looks sweet. That right there made the whole movie worth it. Next in my ranking is the epic finale to the Skywalker saga, Return of the Jedi. This movie had some fun theatrics, it had fun situations that were entertaining to watch, and probably the most emotional lightsaber battle in the entire saga between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. All of the loose ends come together in a very satisfying way and leaves our characters as heroes that save the galaxy, that have grown as people, and will never go back to their boring, pitiful lives isolated from those they love and those that love them. Yeah. They will never do that unless Disney decides that they should. But Revenge of the Sith acts as the antithesis to Return of the Jedi. It has, I would say, the same level of emotion, maybe in a different way, but the same level. And it doesn't cut back on theatrics or spectacle. George Lucas wanted a huge space battle, so we got it. He wanted a big ground battle between droids and clones and Wookiees, and we got it. And he wanted the longest, most intricate sword fight in cinematic history, and he put it in there. And I've made this argument before that the prequels of Star Wars are very Shakespearean in their experience, and you won't find a better idea of the Shakespearean tragic hero than you will in Anakin Skywalker. It is absolutely fascinating to watch, to read, to see. It's a great movie that's worthy of study and watching. So check it out if it's been a while. So we've discussed all but 2 of these movies. One of these movies is going to go home as my second favorite. The other one is going to go home as my all-time favorite Star Wars movie, as far as like this list is concerned. Then it will probably change some other time later. That happens. And the second place goes to A New Hope. For me, A New Hope encompasses the entire Star Wars experience and puts it into one movie, right? You have good triumphing over evil, you have the hero's journey, you have the character growth, the spaceships, the Force, everything. The whole experience is there. And it also highlights a bit of the wackiness of Star Wars, with its sci-fi elements and spaceships, and its fantasy elements with the Force, all somehow wrapped into what's almost like a Western, almost. It's fun, and in my mind, this Star Wars movie is only surpassed by one other movie, and that is Solo. Han Solo is by far and away my favorite character in the franchise. My introduction to Star Wars is a bit different. It didn't start with the movies, it actually started with the novels. And my favorite novels were the ones that were like the Han Solo prequels. The ones that showed like how he got the Falcon, showed his travels across the galaxy and the weird wacky things that he saw while doing that. And then to see all of that happen on screen, it was a great thing. I loved seeing that. It kept the core essence, which I would say is the hero taking a chance and becoming a much bigger, much more complex character. I mean, Anakin's story is all about him going from living in the slave colony to becoming one of the greatest Jedi ever. Then the originals were about Luke Skywalker coming from his humble farm boy experience and becoming the great hero of the galaxy. And Solo was about him going from street urchin, street rat, to becoming like his own man, his own writer of his future. It's also one of two movies, I would say, in Star Wars, this would be Episode 4 and Solo, that allow itself to be watched by itself. It's not reliant on other movies to help you explain the story. You could watch it by itself. You could watch it as your first Star Wars, and it still works. Unfortunately, if anything, this movie is famous for not making any money. Because as far as producers are concerned, when Solo didn't make money, it was because people were not interested in seeing these non-episodic Star Wars movies. I wouldn't say that's the case, especially in my experience. I didn't get to see Solo in theaters just because I didn't want to. When I saw episode Dumpster Fire, The Last Jedi, it hurt Star Wars for me, and it's like I didn't believe that Disney, or really anyone other than George Lucas and his people, could make a good Star Wars movie that I'd be interested in. And I didn't want to see them take my favorite character and completely destroy him in his own movie. So I didn't see it. But afterwards, like maybe a year afterwards, I finally did see it on Netflix, and I was blown away. It's like, this is exactly the kind of Star Wars movie that I was hoping to get. And it didn't make any money because I think I wasn't the only one who had this mindset. It's unfortunate that this movie didn't do better because, like I said, this movie felt like it was the one that Star Wars fans wanted, and it could have easily segued into a full trilogy of Han Solo movies, or movies based around like the Crimson Dawn or Kira or something, and it would have been really fascinating and really fun to watch and experience. But alas, it's just another Star Wars movie that was ruined by The Last Jedi and Rian Johnson. Why are you giving him his trilogy again? Why are you doing that? Keep him away. So, there you go. That's my personal listing of Star Wars movies from worst to best. Now I want to hear what your listing is. What's your favorite movie? Why is it? And yeah, I hope that you don't get too bored with this whole social distancing thing. I know I am, but whatever. Hope you find something fun to do. Let me know what you're doing to try and keep yourself busy during this time. And until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day. And remember to always be your best self.